What are the major cuts of lamb? We're starting at the back end of the animal here.
We're going to use the leg. So we have a little, we use this commonly for a roast leg of lamb, where it's common in Ireland and it's very common in Sweden to have it on Easter. It's not as easy to get the whole piece of lamb.
So could you see yourself doing this in a regular kitchen at home?
No. Maybe if the wife wasn't there, I probably would. So that's your first leg of lamb.
Could I ask you, Liam, how many people could you feed with a leg of lamb the size you just cut now?
Maybe 8-10 people with vegetables and mint sauce and whatever else you want.
So that'd be a pretty good cut for a large family dinner.
Oh, easily.
And is there much of a difference in the way you'd prepare the shoulder of lamb now, which you're taking off the front of the animal?
Shoulder you can braise, but you need to remove all the bone.
Okay.
And then you braise it. You'd roll it and you'd tie it, and then you would braise it.
Mm-hmm. And could you just explain braising for people like me who are not so good in the kitchen?
Braising is a slow method of cooking, commonly used for tough cuts of meat, tenderizes it in the cooking.
Okay, and would you do that in an oven or would you do it in a big...
You can do it in like a large casserole, or you can do it in an oven.
We seem to have moved on for the legs here. You just cut a piece
Now
off.
I've just removed the fillet.
This is the fillet of lamb here.
This is the fillet of lamb, which should probably be the most expensive piece, which should be quite similar to when you're using it in a cow or an ox. It would be your ox fillet. So you need to remove the sinew here, because this gets like elastic, so it kind of binds it together. We're going to do a Swedish classic beef Rydberg, but we're going to use lamb fillet instead of ox fillet.
Is it easy meat to work with or is it very tough to cut?
It all depends on experience, really. You know where the bones are. You need to be able to use your hands. A good larder chef or a good chef works with both his hands and the knife. It's not just all the knife. You need to feel where the bones are. But that comes with practice.
We're saying now for people who are just going shopping in their local supermarket and they want to pick up a piece of lamb to use at a weekend, how do they know what's good and what's not?
A lot of people will go with what they know or what they've seen on the television. Everybody knows a rack of lamb. It's quite fast to cook, maybe 15 minutes. Personally, I would probably take a shoulder or a leg. It takes a little bit more time, but the reward is afterwards when you actually eat it. This is the leg, which would be commonly used in the roast leg of lamb, which we all have tasted one time or another. So you need to use your fingers and the knife just to remove it from the bone.
Just looking at the knife you're using there, it appears to be very, very small and very, very sharp. Is there any, obviously that's the right knife to use, is that the kind of thing that everybody would have in their kitchen?
I doubt it. Everyone has a global chopping knife.
Yeah.
This is just my personal favourite.
This is a great opportunity for people to see what happens behind the scenes in a kitchen. And in your experience, you've worked in Michelin restaurants and run these kinds of kitchens. Is this the kind of prep work that gets done every day, or do you buy in a lot of the stuff all ready to go?
A lot of restaurants would buy this in pre-done, and then it cuts down on your staff costs. But the better restaurants now are using all these joints. So then you're making köttbullar, you're making your stocks and sauces from it. You don't have any waste.
And that seems to be a kind of a trend at the moment to use the sort of the lesser known cuts. Sometimes maybe the tougher cuts are the ones that are a little bit more difficult to use.
Yeah, it is a big trend, especially here in Stockholm.
And is that from this sort of artisanal thing that people want it to be more sort of homely, traditional kind of a thing?
Yeah, people kind of want to see where the meat and lamb and vegetables come from.
Is that an economic thing as well, though, because of the fact that maybe these things are a little bit cheaper, or because you can get things to last a little longer?
I don't think it would be cheaper, but if you were to buy a larger piece of lamb, you'd get more than one meal from it. From this, you could do possibly 10, 12 different meals in a restaurant. So that's quite economical.
It seems to be quite adaptable as well. We've mentioned the fillet, we've mentioned the beef ribeye, we're thinking of making here the köttbullar, the Swedish meatballs.
Yeah, so many different. You could do curries, you can do whatever you want basically with it.
Could I ask you to describe what you're doing now? We've moved on to a couple of herbs and spices and this kind of thing.
I've just put in some sea salt, which has got more flavour than a normal table salt. I've got some rosemary, thymian, which is thyme in English, and I'm going to use some garlic, like a Chinese garlic. I'm just going to massage the skin with the garlic. Just going to score the skin on the outside.
So let the heat get into it better, is that correct?
Yeah. I'm going to just massage the skin again with garlic. Vegetable olive oil.
Again, it seems to be a very hands-on job. There doesn't seem to be too many tools.
You have to use your hands when you're a chef, or when you buy a piece of lamb like this.
Any special tips now for how they should be tied up, or is it just?
Just to ensure that you keep what you've put in it.
So you have a little noose there, kind of thing, to
Yeah.
hold it all together.
But if you want, you could do this just like that. Just tie a knot there and redo it like that. But we have, in the trade, we learned to do it like this.
So we see some oil going into a frying pan over there.
Yeah, we're just going to seal it up, just to keep the flavours inside.
So that stops the flavours leaking out in the
Yeah.
pan in the oven then later.
So we'll set the oven for about 120 degrees and we'll cook it for about 2.5 hours till it reaches 56 inside. So we'll use a thermometer.
So it's just browned a little bit in the frying pan.
Yep, just to keep the juices in. If you want, put some more rosemary in there. A little bit more garlic. In nice large pieces so you can remove it before it's served. Now with the thermometer, you just go into the middle. You set your degree that you want.
It's 56 degrees in this case.
Yep. Press start and that should beep. We could either use the saddle or we could use the neck. We're going to use the neck here for our meatballs.
Okay.
So it's the same again, using your knife and your hands.
And would you say it's better, if you go into a supermarket now as a regular customer, is it better to buy the lamb mincemeat that exists, or can you do this yourself at home?
You could do it yourself at home, but you need to get a mincer,
Yeah, the meat grinder, yeah.
a meat grinder, yeah.
Which would you prefer to do now if you were given the choice at home?
I'd probably prefer to do it yourself. But then you know you're 100% of what's actually in the mince. So you can be quite safe and can cook it a little less.
How much of the fat now are you going to remove from this? Will all the fat disappear, or will you leave some in to add to the flavour?
We're going to leave, in this little piece here, we'll use all this fat. So you may be looking at about maybe 10 portions of köttbullar. But we're going to remove some of the muscle,
Okay.
which would make it tough.
And all this meat will be minced now for the...
Yep, for the meatballs. Now we've removed what we need for the meatballs. We've also removed the leg, so we're going to use a leg dish. We're going to keep the shoulder dishes or the shoulders for another dish tomorrow. What's left on here would be like the rack and the saddle. So we don't need that at the moment, so we'll do that later.
We pop that in the freezer maybe for the barbecue during the summer.
Exactly.